Hello again, Gills fans. Welcome back to the latest episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It's time for episode 9 of Gills in the Pub. The band is back together for the first time since the 10th of May. A lot has happened in a relatively short space of time since then. So for the next hour or so, myself, Jack and Reece are going to go through everything that's been going on in ME7 from that time at the end of the last season right up to the current day. As we sit here Friday night, looking forward to an early start. Well, for myself and Jack anyway, for Grimsby away on Saturday. Gents, are you both good?
All good, mate?
Good.
Yeah, spot on. Thanks, Matt.
Good. You are, because you're not having to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
I'm used to that anyway, mate, with my little one. So
Yeah, too true. Yeah, too true. Right, good place to start is probably summer transfer business. We are sat here at 5:45, Friday, the 1st of September. Neil Harris has promised that nothing else is going to happen. Of course, there are a couple of names floating around on social media, but confirmed transfer business for the Gills since we last spoke is Connor Masterson on a free transfer, having been released by QPR. Johnny Williams on a free from Swindon. Max Clark, Stevenage, same situation. Shadrach Ogie, undisclosed fee from Leyton Orient. Scott Malone, free transfer, having left Millwall. Ashley Nadersson, undisclosed from Crawley Town. Macaulay Bonne on a free transfer, having left Charlton Athletic. And Connor Mahoney on loan from Championship side Huddersfield Town. It's been good, isn't it? I mean, we sat here May, we sat here February, and we were speaking about January transfer business and the work that Kenny Jackett and Andy Hessenthaler were doing to help everybody out. And it's just continued to grow and evolve and snowball, and everything's been really positive. I don't think there's a signing so far that anyone's sort of gone, oh, I'm not keen on that. Maybe Nadersson, Jack, but I'll let you talk about that. But overall, just before we get into each signing, I just want to come to you first, Jack. Rating out of 10 transfer business in the summer so far.
probably say 9, mate. I think the only thing we're missing personally, and I thought this I said this on the last episode, we've all said this last season, is we are still missing a little bit of pace. Obviously, we get that with Nadersson. We hopefully get that with the likes of Mahoney, but I still feel we're missing someone like that X Factor winger type person. So I think that's the only thing I would say. But based on some of the rumours, maybe we're getting someone like that tonight. Who knows? But yeah, I'd say 9. I'd probably go as far as saying it's arguably the best summer transfer window we've had possibly in my lifetime. I mean, we had King, Shaw and Hope join, didn't we? 2000, 2001, I think it was.
For the best part of 15 years at least that I can't remember.
Absolutely.
Even the Edinburgh season, I think it's probably surpassed that, hasn't it? I think.
Obviously we was in higher leagues and therefore the players were better. But if you look at it as a collective kind of out of 10, I'm struggling to think of a better transfer window. And that follows on from an equally very, very good transfer window in January. So I absolutely, apart from, I was about to say absolutely no complaints from me. The only thing I would say is probably the pace situation. And on Nadersson, hold my hands up that I think I've got that one wrong. I said underwhelming based on his stats. It's the easiest thing to do is base an opinion on stats for a striker that you don't do it with anyone else typically. And he's without doubt proved me wrong, and probably will continue to prove me wrong. So arguably one of our better signings actually based on his work rate. If nothing else, the work rate and the harrying of defenders is something we've not had for a very long time. So hold my hands up and say I've got that one wrong.
And Reece, I'm going to come to you. Same question, out of 10, and then just general overview, what you thought of the window as a whole.
Yeah, I pretty much sit in line with Jack, to be honest. I was thinking 8.5, 9 out of 10. Like you've touched on, I think the fact we had such a good January window probably helped us coming into the summer, where we'd already laid the strong foundations of building a good side at this level, that it meant that we didn't have to go out and sign a silly amount of players. I can't remember exactly how many we've signed, but sort of going into the summer, sort of the talk amongst us was sort of we probably only needed sort of 6 or 7. In which case it's allowed us to be a little bit more patient and go after more sort of specific targets. Everyone that's come in, I think, has offered something or has shown signs that they will be able to offer something this season to help us get to where we want to be. Perhaps one slight surprise is that maybe the fact that we didn't really spend any substantial amount of transfer fee on anyone, like probably going into the summer, people thought we might. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, because it's also a good way of the club showing that we've been able to get good players in without also being held hostage by other clubs. So I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Obviously, there was talks of May and Akinyemi being the two that we might have threw a bit of money on the table for, but they didn't materialise. But in the end, I'm really, really happy with what we've got. And with the squad we've got, I'm really happy that we can achieve our targets for the season.
Yeah, it's quite boring so far. Sorry, viewers. I'm going to agree with both. I think we're around a sort of 9 out of 10, aren't we? All the players that come in look like they're improving the 11, look like they're improving the 18, the squad as a whole. Jack's point, I agree with. I still think there's room for a little bit more pace. Whether Neil Harris, on the back of Jaden Clark's performance at Luton during the week, is brave enough to give him a start in the league, maybe at Grimsby or moving forward, that would then give us more of that type of attribute in the side. It's whether you're brave enough to play him and Mahoney in the same team, I guess. I always like to base squads on 2 per position on average, and I think we've got 22 senior players now, haven't we? And they're all players that if you put them in the team, you don't sit here and go, oh, that diminishes the quality of the 11 anymore, because you just quickly, like the 2 goalkeepers, Neil Harris has said, we've got 2 number ones. I'm happy with Mackenzie and Alexander as left backs. I think as a pair, the 2 left backs are probably as good as anything in the entire division. I suppose the only place is centre back where we've not actually got 2 that are just centre backs. We've got Shad, Max, and Connor, plus the likes of Robbie McKenzie, maybe Max Clark can tuck in if we decided to play a 3 if it's cover injuries and that type of thing. But I think overall it's been a really, really good window. Reece, you made a point though and said, because I think we sat here in May and we all said, yeah, the transfer business in January was the business that would get us out of trouble at the time, but also take us into the new season. To both of you though, we're a little surprised that we've gone and added 8 with 5 hours of the window left still. I think we was all sort of talking 5, 6, 7 absolute tops, weren't we? So I think that's probably been a bit of a bonus in itself that we've got 8 good players in. I know maybe Will Wright left, so that was a bit of a surprise. McDonald, we were trying to keep, but couldn't agree a deal. So maybe then the numbers do change slightly. But I thought 8 was slightly more than we were talking about 3 or 4 months ago.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I think probably the Malone one's probably also a bit of a curveball, because obviously I don't think Harris was ever expecting us to get Scott Malone, and obviously hence him signing Max Clark after him leaving Stevenage, probably the intention of him being the left back. And obviously Malone sort of comes in for training and obviously comes out to Como and then decides he wants to sign. So I think he was just probably a bonus signing rather than one that was actually on the list of targets when the summer began. So yeah, maybe we have signed one more than I expected, but like you say, obviously Will's left. Obviously we don't know how long Ollie's going to be out for either. So I think the squad size at the moment is about where we need it to be fair.
Yeah, I totally agree. And Jack as well. Max Clark, I think we probably, if you had to pick a player that you feel sorry for at the moment, I think it has to be Max Clark. 47 games for Stevenage, promotion winner, and now suddenly can't get in the squad aside from Carabao Cup games, which must be massively frustrating for him. But at the same time, it shows where we are now as a football club, that we're in a position that's certainly a lot healthier than if we was doing this episode a year ago.
Yeah, I was going to say, mate. Actually, I was going to say that if you teleported someone from this time last year to this time this year, they wouldn't believe this was actually the real world. In comparison, it's crazy. So, I think the squad size is perfectly fine. We've got a lot of depth. I've got absolutely no complaints, mate. And yeah, I do feel slightly sorry for Max Clark, but it's really good to have the competition for places, really, at the end of the day. And Scott Malone's up there with one of the better players that's played for us in recent years. He's far too good for League Two. And I'd probably go along and say the same for Ogie, to be honest. I have no clue what Orient were doing letting him go. I think he'll be a championship centre-back soon, to be honest. So I think I don't know if I'm touching on something you might have gone on to, mate, but I think if you had to say what is the best signing of the summer, I think it probably is Ogie. If I had to put my neck on the line at the moment, we're only a few games in, but yeah, every single player we've signed has been, it looks on paper very, very good. There's usually someone in the list every year, albeit under Scally in the past, that we've gone, Jesus, what? No, there was earlier, but usually under him, there was always one person where everyone was probably in agreement why are we signing him? I said it about Nader, admit I'm wrong. So every single one of them's proving to be a good signing at the moment.
Yeah, and I think Reece, you probably go along with that as well. I don't think if you look at them 8 in terms of what Jack said about Shad Ogie, I know a lot of their fans said he didn't play purely because of the form of the Orient centre-backs last season. They must have been absolutely phenomenal. Because I'm not a big fan of Omar Beckles. I never have been. I think he's reminds me a bit of Gabby Zakwani. And then if you try and ask him to play, then he massively struggles. And he did that for us and helped us out when he played for Crewe a couple of seasons ago. And I think ended up with 2 assists when we beat them 4-1. Yeah, but who would you say is the best or maybe the most surprising success story so far, albeit over a very small segment of time?
It's quite funny, really, because obviously when we last did one at the end of last season, I think I remember saying that if we got him back permanently, we wouldn't make a better signing all summer than Conor Masterson. And then fast forward a few games, and he's not actually played in the league yet. So I can't really say him at the moment. I mean, I suppose you'd have to say that Naderson's probably made the quickest impact in terms of scoring 3 in his first 4 games. So yeah, props to him for that, because we scored 2 match winners in 1-0 wins, isn't he? And obviously set us on the way against Southampton. So you can't knock the impact that he's had. And yeah, Shad was a real surprise, because that was a signing that come out of the blue. There was no sort of Twitter talk on that one. It was just he was spotted at a game on one of the pre-season friendlies, signed that night.
Isn't that the night that everyone thought he was Ojo from Cardiff?
That's it.
First, yeah, because that was the name that was doing the rounds, yeah.
And all the talk on social media was like, it'll just be back up to Max and Connor. And obviously, such as the way in football, sometimes Masterson was injured for the first game. OG got a chance, and hasn't looked back, and he's been absolutely phenomenal so far. He's different to the others in the sense that he's a very front-footed centre back. He's quite aggressive. He likes to sort of try and nip in front of forwards all the time, which is why he picks up yellow cards. And I'd have thought he'll be banned very, very soon, but I don't mind that. I think it's a good balance to go with the other centre backs that we've got, to be fair.
And you're in a position now, aren't you, where if Shadowy does get suspended, we've got a backup. I feel bad calling Conor Masterson a backup at the moment for the same reasons as yourself, but we've got other options that can come in, and it's not, like we've said, it's not going to, drop the quality of the 11. Conor Masterson is one hell of a first change at the moment. Sorry to nick a cricketing term, but it's ridiculous. And like Jack and myself said earlier, it's night and day compared to where we were last season. Last season, I think around this time we was looking at Elkan Baggott and Haji Minoga, and we had Ryan Law and David Tatonda to choose from at left fullback. So it really is staggering. I want to talk about season preview video though that I did back end of July, and I've just picked out the category. I'm not going to talk about the division. I just want to talk about us, obviously. So the categories that I went through in the Gillingham section of that video were top scorer, breakthrough season, youngster to make an impact, and where the Gills will ultimately end up come next May. So let's start with top scorer. I went with Tom Nichols, and I said I was confident he'd get 12 to 14 goals this season based on his numbers when he arrived in January. Obviously, this was before we signed Ashley Nadders and Macaulay Bond, so things changed. But I'm going to give you two now the benefit of the rest of the window. So Jack first, and then I'll come to you, Reece. Who will end up as top scorer for the Gills?
How many is Naderson on at the moment?
3.
3.
Same as Mackenzie.
I think it probably would have to be Naderson, to be honest. I think it's the obvious answer. I feel like Bond's probably the one you'd look at stats wise if we're going to go down that route. Who you'd back probably to be the one out of the 3 that's got the most goals in him, and he has only started sub games. It's a very tough question. I'm going to go Naderson with the benefit of the fact that he's got a 3-goal start. Well, 3-goal start on the others, hasn't he? The rest haven't scored in the league. So, yeah, I'm going to go with the easy answer there.
Reece?
I'm going to go the other one. I'm going to go Bond. Obviously, he's still getting up to fitness, isn't he? I think, obviously, in playing 70 minutes at Luton, would do him the world of good. He nearly scored, obviously, against Colchester last week, didn't he? I don't know if he knew anything about it, but nearly diverted one in.
Yeah, we'll call it a flick header.
Yeah, we'll be generous to him and call it that. But no, I think if he can get himself up to sharpness and then get one, I think he might then sort of nail down a place in the team alongside one of the other 2. And like Jack said, if you look at sort of previous records, he's the one that I think has got the ability that if he gets on a run, I think he's more likely to sustain that over a period of time than the other two. I think obviously Naderson's had a great start, but I don't think his career generally suggests that he's going to be more of a streaky striker in terms of goals, I think, rather than a nailed on goal scorer most weeks.
Yeah, I can concur with that. Obviously, I had the choice of Tom, Ollie, and Lewis Walker when I did mine. That's my defence. But yeah, I'd say that Bond's probably the most natural box in the box type if you can get him up to speed. I think Naderson will be similar to Tom Nichols. That I think he'll get a decent amount of goals. He'll probably provide some assists as well. But it's nice that we've all said 3 different ones, isn't it? If we'd done this a few seasons ago, it would have been Verdane Oliver, and then it would have been Tom Eaves, and before that, it would have been Cody McDonald. So it's nice that we are spreading the goals around.
I think also, mate. Sorry, mate. Go. No, go.
I was just going to say that I know there was a few bits floating around on social media pre-Luton that said, and I thought there was an overreaction to Colchester, and we'll get to that later. But we'd only got 2 scorers up until that point, so it was nice to see Jayden and Nico get off the mark Tuesday night at a Premier League ground and give them some confidence going into the league games moving forward. Next section. Oh, sorry, go on, Jack. You had a point to make before we go to the
all
next
I was going
category.
to say, mate, was just on the striker front. Just it's good as well that we've got kind of a different type of striker, really as well across all of them. So Nichols, as I've described him before, as that kind of burrowing second striker. Low sense of gravity, could play attacking mid, in my opinion. If you really needed him to. You've got Hawkins, who God knows when he's going to be back, but he's a target man type scenario. Bond's kind of that fox in the box. Naderson is a guy that will chase down and score goals, it seems, as well. But the guy that's going to harry players into mistakes. He's got pace, and then even the likes of Clark and Mahoney seem like they could play up front as well. So we've got a good mixture of different types of strikers, which we've not had for a very long time either.
Yeah, totally agree. Second section was breakthrough season, and this didn't have to be, because obviously I've got the youngster coming up afterwards, so this could just be someone that kicks on. My pick, and we'll go back to Reece's comment a couple of minutes ago, was Connor Masterson. I said it was going to be Connor that was going to kick on and prove to be, if not the best, one of sort of the top 3, top 5 centre backs in the entire division. Because again, similar to Ogie, I think he's too good to be in League 2. He can probably go and play top end League 1. We've seen that with previous loan spells. So that was my choice. Didn't think he was going to get injured before Stockport and then not be able to get in the side. So, Reece, I'll come to you first on this one. Who do you think will be the Gills player that will have a breakthrough season?
It's more difficult to answer now that we've got the hindsight of a few games to go off, because
I know I'm good to you too, and
I've obviously haven't been able to see the start of the season. You'd probably say it has to be Turner, I suppose. Obviously, didn't play that many league games last season. There was always the chance. I think we spoke about it during pre-season that we both had an inkling that he was going to end up being the number 1 when the season come round, and so it proved. And and he's ticking along nicely at the moment, isn't he?
Yeah, you can't argue. 4 clean sheets in 5 league games. Jack,
tough one to answer, mate. I think if you base it on his appearances in his career, it's probably either Turner or Ogie. But just to throw up, a differing opinion, I'd probably say Ogie. On the basis, like I say, I don't think he started tons of games for Orient. He's had a decent career so far, but yeah, I think he'll break through, and like I said earlier, end up getting bought by someone else. Maybe not this season, by the way, but I think it's going to be such a breakthrough season for him. I think that he's going to be on the map of everyone else.
Absolutely, yeah. Quick tangent before we get to the next category. Max Emer is a Gills player that, and this is just something off the cuff that I thought about when we're talking about centre halves. Is Max is a player that I think divides opinion. I've always been a fan, and I've said you don't play for 6-7 managers at professional level without having ability. Colchester, obviously, there was a reaction to the defeat. So you look at your defensive players because you've conceded 3. Does Max Emer come out of the team straight away? I've seen people saying that Connor comes back in for Grimsby away. For me, I think that'd be incredibly harsh on a player that's been a big part of a solid back 4 for the first month of the season in the league and kept 4 clean sheets in 5 outings.
I think, I would agree with that sentiment, but at the same time, and Ogie has been in this defence as well, but we've conceded, albeit one of them is against a Premier League team, so it's a bit of an unfair description, but he's been in a team that's let in 6 goals in the last 2 games. So maybe change it up. You know, he played the other night, Marston. I thought he'd done all right. I'd be tempted to play him tomorrow, yes, but not through anything that Max has done particularly wrong. I think sometimes just freshening up the team is a worthwhile exercise if the person coming in's of good or better quality, and I'd probably put Masterson in that category.
Reece? My personal opinion is I think he'll be more likely to play all 3 of them than to just straight away take Max out for Connor, because it would be a little bit like when Masterson come back, wouldn't it? And Will Wright was playing centre back. We kept a couple of clean sheets. He was playing quite well, and all of a sudden we let the 3 goals in at Swindon, and suddenly he was out of the team, and Masterson was straight back in. So if Harris was to do that, and he decided he was only going to play 2, I think just because he's had such a sort of headline raising start to the season, he probably would go with OG and Masterson instead of Max. But I think he might play all 3 of them, having done so at Luton on Tuesday. Now I think now he's had a little feeler for that. He may well decide that's the route to go down, which I wouldn't be against.
Got no issue with that. But then you've suddenly got to try and fit Jaden Clark, Johnny Williams, Connor Mahoney into. Well, you can't, can you? Essentially, you can't get them 3 into the same team if we play a back 3, back 5.
No, only if he plays sort of 3-4-3. But I think he'd be more likely to play 3-5-2, wouldn't he?
Yeah, 3, then 4 in front, and then a 10 with 2 centre forwards. Yeah, so it'd be interesting to see how brave he is in terms of Jaden Clark again. She'll find out tomorrow, I guess.
Yeah, I personally think he should start him. I think it would be it's an interesting one. You know, we've won 4 games 1-0, and we've won all 4 of them. You know, albeit we lost the other day, but he is that attacking flair player that I think we all love to see. Albeit, you know, he's not played many games in his career at this level at all, is he? But he absolutely shone through against Southampton, and the other night against better quality opposition than League Two. So it'd be a mirror into Harris's mind if, you know, tomorrow. I think judging by the Kent Online comments, I think he may start based on what Harris said.
Yeah, and we know that Neil generally has been 4-4-2 throughout his career. So penny for the thoughts of Messrs. Lapsley, although injured at the moment, and Johnny Williams. Third category was youngster to make an impact, and again, it's another category where we're blessed all of a sudden with players that could have an impact. And the season preview said that this was in terms of they don't have to play loads and loads of games or score loads of goals, but someone that's going to similarly break through again and then have an impact at the, you know, maybe at fleeting moments. We've got 4 or 5 that I think fall into that category. My pick before the season started was Ethan Coleman, who I think up until the red card last weekend, and I thought that was a bit harsh, but that's for another day. He was my pick. I think he's the natural successor to that Sean Williams role. I've liked what I've seen since he came on board in January, and I think he'll just go on to get better and better and become a very, very good defensive midfielder, maybe in time almost a box-to-box midfielder, because I think he's got the athletic ability to be able to get up and down the pitch. So I'll come to you first, Jack, for this category. Youngster to make an impact during 23-24.
I think the person I've just said, mate, to be honest, Jaden Clark, you know, I'm not against what you just said there. I think Ethan Coleman's a very good young footballer. There's so many, to be honest, to choose from, isn't there? I've said Ogie already for breakthrough, so probably feel like I can't say that again, but he's under the age of 24, which is what you get classed as a young player.
Yeah, I classed Coleman is 24, but I wasn't sure when his birthday was, so I left him in because it's my channel.
Yep. But I'd say Clark personally. I think if we look back at the end of the season, I think he's the one who's likely to get Young Player of the Year. I feel like Ogie's going to get Player of the Year actually, and I feel like Clark's going to get Young Player of the Year. I know we're only 5 games in, but if you base it on the current form, that's the way it's going.
Same age, I think, aren't they? 21, Ogie and Clark. And again, I suppose it comes back to how brave Neil Harris is in terms of allowing him to play to see how much of an impact he does have. But if you keep putting in performances like you do against Southampton and at Kenilworth Road, and I'd imagine he'll get minutes in the Papa John's Cup if he doesn't play at the weekend, he's going to be knocking on that door louder and louder, isn't he? Reece, I'm going to come to you. What's your pick for Youngster to make a breakthrough?
Yeah, I'd have gone with Clark as well. Just the basis that obviously he managed to get himself into that team that last game of the season at Salford, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought he was one of our better performers throughout pre-season, to be honest. A few really bright performances, and I always felt that he was going to be a lot closer to the first team setup than sort of the other youngsters. Obviously, they've all been on the bench in certain games, but never really thought they'd come on and make an impact the way Clark has done. It's obviously the 2 cup games. Obviously, yeah, it'd been nice to see him play in the league game. I think it is important that people keep in mind that yes, he has looked very, very good in the Southampton and Luton Cup games, but they're also very different types of football matches to a League Two game. Playing 2 teams of higher opposition will naturally leave more spaces for a League Two team and a player like Clark to exploit. We're not going to go to Grimsby tomorrow and they're going to leave vast amounts of space in their final third for someone like that to exploit. So we do have to bear that in mind. And he may well be a player that sort of has to come in and out the team at times, just because of that youthful nature, still learning at the level. But no, I'd thought he's going to rack up a decent number of performances this season. How many of them are starts? I don't know. But if he can make sort of 15 starts this season, I think he'd have done really well for himself.
Absolutely, yeah, because he had a job, didn't he, 6 months ago, and was playing semi-professional at National League South level. So Jordan Green, but with work rate.
That's very unfair on Jaden Clark, that is, I think.
Yeah, it was. I did say and a lot more as well. I didn't say it too loud. But final question in this section is the big one. Final Gills finishing position. I said 6th at the start of the season. Reece.
Before ball was kicked, I said 3rd. Our record in the second half of last season was very, very good. And with what we did over the summer, the squad is stronger now than it was last season when we were picking up results. So there was no doubt in my mind that I felt that the group's possible of automatic promotion this season. And yeah, the start we've had has done nothing to change my mind. So yeah, I'll stick with 3rd.
Jack, same question.
I want to be really, really bold here and say 1st, but I'm getting ahead of myself. I think.
I think the miserable one. What are you talking about?
I'm usually miserable because there was miserable stuff to be miserable about. There ain't anymore. I don't know, mate. 7th is probably minimum the position we're expecting now, if we're brutally honest. Coaches has brought us back down to earth a little bit. And scoring 4, winning games 1-0 is something you can't keep doing. Well, Pulis's teams kind of did it. But I think it will like Saturday, it will catch up on us if we don't score more goals. So I'm probably going to go with Reece and say 3rd. I'm going to say we're going to get promoted on the last day. There you go, as a prediction.
Where are we last day?
I think we're at home, aren't we?
Is it Doncaster at home?
Home to Doncaster, yeah. Yeah,
it is. Yeah,
I'm saying there's a pitch invasion for all the right reasons.
Yeah, unlike Rotherham. Take that.
That's my choice. I'm going 3rd as well. Yeah.
Me the least optimistic. How things change, eh? Blimey, O'Reilly. But again, mine was before the start. I mean, we was winning the league at Stockport. But yeah, it's not sustainable to keep winning games 1-0. And I think, although we make comparisons to the 95, 96 Tony Pulis side, I think the game's completely different compared to back then. And I just don't think it's something that we can continue to do. And it is something that we've still got to sort out. Of course, we've scored 4 goals in 5 league games and we've scored 5 goals in 2 cup games. So it's just about getting the balance right in the league. And I get that there's more space to be had in these cup games, especially when you manage to get yourself in front, which I think we're very good at doing. But yeah, like Reece said, you're not going to get loads amount of space to play in beyond Grimsby or next week or the week after when we play Morecambe and Harrogate. It's going to be a lot tighter.
Just whilst we're on that, mate, just one thing to say. I took off Facebook earlier on the subject of being good from winning positions. Since Harris has joined, I don't know how substantiated this actually is in terms of fact, but someone has said that since he's took over, when we've taken the lead out of 44 games, I feel like that can't be right because I think he must have managed more games than that for us. But someone has said that he says we've not lost a single game apparently from a winning position under Harris.
I think I said to you in our WhatsApp chat, I said I don't think we've lost when taking the lead under Neil Harris.
I can't think of one.
No, at all. But then on the flip side, someone has actually said we've not won a single game from a losing position under Harris either.
Beat Wimbledon.
There you go. Oh yeah, we did look through that, didn't we? Actually, didn't we? Yeah, so 1. So yeah,
And we
it's an
beat
interesting
Colchester
debate.
in the Pizza Cup. If you're looking at all competitions, but I think it is only 2. Yeah, so it comes back to what we were talking about in WhatsApp. We're very good at being front runners. It's just when we have to chase games that we've got to certainly find a way to be better if we want to get to where we want to be.
Yeah, I think that's the key one, mate. To be honest, I think a team that will get promoted will win games from losing positions. Let's hope we don't get into many. And I think that is a very good trait of Harris's. You know, we like he said, you know, we want to be a first goal mentality team and a clean sheet mentality team. My hope, as I always hope, you know, and I think I'm the most. I don't know. I don't know if this would be a fair analogy, but I feel like I'm the one who would prefer attacking football more so out of the 3 of us. Just because I think that's personally the way you should play football. But then how can I argue with Pulis and Allen getting us up with almost anti-football especially in this division? So I'd like to see us play with the handbrake off a little bit more, but retaining the traits that we've had since he's taken over, the positive traits.
Again, Reece, it comes back to balance, doesn't it? That's the biggest thing. At whatever level you manage a football team, you've got to get the balance right between being on the front foot and also keeping the back door shut.
Yeah, see Wrexham.
Yeah, I think the thing that gets me, if you look at the Southampton game, I thought personally, I don't know about if you lads agree with this, I think that was arguably the best performance I've ever seen from the football club.
Yeah.
Ever.
It was ridiculously good. I remember sitting in there talking to Boz during the match day live or whoever I was sat next to that night, and I said, I don't want this to end. I could sit here just all night long and just watch us do this because it was incredibly fun to watch.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Like honestly, I mean, I've been going since 1994, 95, more so 95, 96 properly, and I really cannot think. There's been games where, you know, we've won promotion and stuff like that, but I'm talking from a complete performance perspective, taking into consideration the opposition. We were phenomenal, and I suppose my argument would be, what's stopping us doing that against League Two opposition? If we play like that against a League Two opponent, I know you say there's not enough space and stuff like that, but we absolutely overran Southampton. We didn't allow them an inch. And I feel like if we played with that sort of handbrake off, which was still defensively sound, by the way, but I feel like I can't see us losing many games at all this season if we played like that. So I get, like I say, I suppose I'd flip that back to you, lads, really. I know you like the sort of the way we play under him, and broadly, I think you do anyway. What would be stopping us from doing that, in your opinion?
Opposition, for me, I think plays a big part, and competition, because it's league football. There's always a point you get to in football matches in the league where if it's 75 minutes and it's still tight, both teams might go, right, we'll settle for a point here. It's not a disaster. Whereas cup football, and certainly if you get yourselves in front, which generally we're good at, Southampton have got to keep playing. Southampton have got to keep pressing. Southampton have got to be stretched and be open because they're trying to get back into a cup tie. Goal difference makes no difference. So I think that changes the mindset of both us and our opponents. I like us to win. That's the biggest thing for me.
Yeah.
There's no right or wrong way to win football matches. The right way, I guess, is to win football matches. That's the best way to do it. No one will care if we play shit football. And win 25 games 1-0.
No one looks back on Allen or Pulis, really, do they? Care? No, they don't. They don't.
I think if we can play champagne football, it's a bonus. But no, I think opposition and competition plays a huge part. You're not going to go Grimsby tomorrow, and you're not going to have Morecambe and Harrogate come to the Priestfield in the next 2 weeks, and then they're going to sit there and play 600 passes, but give us a chance because they might overplay at times. That's just not the nature of the beast in League Two, is my opinion. Reece?
No, I agree, to be honest, mate. I think as well that, you know, from the second half of last season, Harris found the formula to win games at this level. So if he's found something that works for him, why would he risk changing it just to make us a little bit more attack-minded when, as you've just said, Jack, with the stat, if we go 1-0 up, we generally win the game. Under Harris, that's been the way it's gone. So why, if we're 1-0 up, we look comfortable, why does he feel the need, I suppose, to... I mean, it's not something he doesn't want the second goals, because he said after the Sutton game and after the Accrington game, especially the Accrington game, he said we should have scored more. I want more goals because it takes pressure off if people go 2-0 up. Well, with Gills and 2-0 leads, I don't know. I think I feel more comfortable with us only winning by 1, but it is one of them. You know, do I like this style of football? Well, I wouldn't say that I sit there watching this and go, oh, bloody hell, we play amazing football. But like Matt said, especially in League Two, it's all about substance over style. It's about winning games. You know, you look at I go on about it all the time. Generally, the teams with the best defensive records get out of this league, not the teams that go and have the 4-3 thrillers, the 4-2s, the 5-3s, and so on and so forth.
All three promoted teams last season scored less than 65 goals.
Yeah, there we go.
I'm not expecting us to necessarily, like, if in an ideal world, blow teams away with tons and tons of goals. I just wish we were a little bit more attack minded in focus occasionally. And I take the point that we're winning games, and I'd rather that than playing attacking expansive football like Wrexham and losing or drawing. But at the same time, I do feel like the handbrake could be taken off a little bit. I think we're very, very defensively sound. Got absolutely no issues with how we defend. I think we're excellent. He's got them very well drilled. I think, the thing that takes us up ultimately is adding a few more goals, being a slightly more creative. But I guess, again, you can't argue with fact around the second half of last season. We didn't particularly play like that, and we won virtually every game. So yeah, let's see where we are. It's just, I suppose for me, it's partly idealistic, really. I just think that's how football should be played. But like you've said, I'll take winning football over style.
I think the thing is as well that obviously the Acton game, the home was obviously at home. We played really well.
We did play very well, yeah. Definitely.
Should have scored more than one. Colchester,
Agreed, yeah.
We wasn't defensive. We were just crap. But then the other games, obviously, were all away from home. And I think it'd be naive of people that expect that we can go away to Leeds ground and just dominate games of football for 90 minutes. I think the right thing away, especially away from home, is that if we do get in front, I think his approach is the right one. And the results on the road have backed that up. I do think it is at home where we then should be looking to score the second and the third, which we did against Accrington. We should have done. And then Colchester, just in that second half, or Harrison said it himself. He said he had to watch it twice to get his head around it. We just sort of fell apart from the middle outwards, basically, in the second half of that game. So I would like to think that sort of in 10 games' time, we will have scored more goals once we've had some more home games, and it will start balancing itself out, I think.
Yes, fair point.
Time will tell, like everything. The Gallinsons, fan interaction is the next subject I want to talk about. Obviously, we did all the immediate takeover stuff in February, the immediate changes that were still being implemented by them, and also Paul Fisher. The May episode, we spoke about Paul's departure. There's still stuff going on. We've seen plenty of good things. Just making fans feel more involved, I think. I mean, the two biggest for me are the kit reveal that myself and Jack were involved in for this beauty that Jack absolutely adores. And then there was the recent season ticket push as well, where I think the club sent block pictures out to people at work to push to get over the record sales, which we eventually achieved. There just seems to be, like, Brad and Shannon are brilliant in terms of videos for kids, happy birthdays, that type of thing, stuff that they don't have to do. It's personal choice. It's not a professional thing that they need to be doing. Electronic hoardings have been added to the. It's not called the Medway stand now. What's it called now?
Magnus
Search Recruitment.
That's it.
Yeah.
The main stand. And obviously, we're waiting on a delivery from somewhere far away for the rest to arrive and be installed in due course around the Gordon Road and the front of the Raynham end. Biggest thing for me, though, and we will talk about the other bits, was they're actually listening. The club's listening to fan feedback now.
Yeah.
We had the kits come out and everyone generally went, the blue and the black and white ones are lovely. The pink's a bit out there. I like it. Reece, I'm not sure. Jack didn't.
I think
like
it. Well, I wouldn't wear it, but I think from a perspective of sale for the club,
it targets a demographic,
it makes complete sense. Yeah.
But then we got these images of what they call Magnus, you said, didn't it?
Magnus
Search Recruitment, yeah. They looked awful, didn't they? The first pictures that we saw on social media, it looked like someone's nan had sewn on a swimming 5 metre badge. It looked horrendous. Fans rightfully had an opinion on social media, and then they got changed. And I think we all agree that they look a lot better. It looks part of the shirt now. It just looked like an afterthought first attempt. Just to build on everything that we spoke about in February and May, it's just a continuation of this positive feel around the club, an owner that makes you feel valued as a supporter. And long may it continue is probably just my biggest point.
Yeah, I think with them as well. Not only do they make us feel valued, which wasn't the case before. Let's be honest. Um, I genuinely feel like it's sincere as well. Like I feel like that's them as people. You know, there might be some sort of ploy, and they're not like this in real life. But I don't think you can put this act on for so long. I think I can't eulogize enough about them, to be honest. Really, like it'll be a sad day the day they leave the club. You know, which hopefully is not for another 10+ years. But yeah, they you want the club to do well for them. I think as well, as much as they want the club to do well. Um, yeah, on the kits, love the home and away one. I've bought both. I normally put them in a collection in my room, in my wife's room, but I'm actually wearing them, which I don't normally do. I think they're great, and yeah, you're right. They are taking on board suggestions. You know, the retro kits being a key one. I think Darren might have beaten to it.
I was going to say they've missed the. I
sales.
think that's a case of after the horse has bolted, unfortunately.
Yeah, the only suggestion that they still haven't taken up is the self-service pumps, unfortunately. But got it in again. But yeah, no, I can't. We could spend all evening talking about how good they've been for the club, and the things they're taking on board, and the things they're doing for us. Just, you know, absolute night and day compared to what we had previously as well.
Absolutely. And Reece, to come to you, I know you missed the kit reveal, which included a signing as well, which was, I mean, there's the first time you meet Johnny Williams, you get told to describe him and describe what he's wearing is a little bit weird. But we rolled with it, and it was good fun, essentially. And that's the general feel around the football club now. But another thing, club shop was removed by the previous regime and replaced with the school, which I've got no issue with the school. So let's put that on record. I've got no issue with the school. It's another revenue stream. It does brilliant stuff for the local community, which is what Brad and Shannon are doing. But you've got to have a club shop as a football club, haven't you? And I think it's due to be reopened, bigger, better, much improved, I think was the line at the most recent Q&A session that we did with Brad and Shannon and whoever else was involved that night. But just another example of them listening to the fans and getting stuff in place that the fans want when they go to a football club.
Yeah, you're not wrong with the club shop. It's a good time to mention it, actually, because obviously last week they put out that post just before the Colchester game saying that they've got more shirts in, and you was going to be able to buy them outside the Gordon Road stand. And my dad said to me, he said, "Oh, if you don't mind, try and get me one." And it took me half an hour just to get in because obviously it's only a tiny little building,
it's
called the
really
Gordon Road stand. It took me half an hour to get in. And also, it's a sign of the way people they're really good at getting everyone to spend their money at the moment, because I walked in there with just the intention of buying my dad the home top, and that was it. And then I walked out with that and this one. So such is the way it's going. But no, it's just when now that sort of people are engaged in the club, the crowds are bigger. There is more demand for stuff. That little shed in the corner of the Golden Road stand isn't quite cutting it. So the new club shop can't come quick enough, and it is only going to help. But in terms of sort of their time in general, they must be finding it quite straightforward. You know, they've come in when we was on our knees, and 8 months later, we've got the best record results wise in League Two, sort of the fifth in the EFL. Crowds are massively up on where they were. Season tickets have hit record sales, despite the fact that, you know, we had conversations and there was a lot of talk amongst the fans when the season tickets come out and there was no early bird, and the sort of the price had essentially gone up, but the sales suggest that they've got it absolutely spot on. And obviously you mentioned the example of sort of listening with the shirts as well. And another example, I know you'll come on to this as a topic shortly, but obviously in Como they had to cancel the open training session, and there was comments on Twitter like, "Oh, can't we do something else sort of for a meet and greet?" And lo and behold, after the game, all the players and the staff come into the away end and spent half an hour with the fans. So they are listening. They are approachable, and yeah, we cannot knock what they're doing. And yeah, at the moment, I mean, you obviously get the odd minority, one or two, but in the main, the entire club on and off the pitch and in the terraces are all pulling in the right direction at the moment.
I would just say, mate, as well, just on that point, with, I think Brad joked, everything's going so well at the moment. When it starts to turn, it'd be interesting to see what it's like. I know he said it tongue in cheek, but he was like, oh, maybe it'll be Gallinson out. It was all sort of all jovial, but genuinely, I think the difference here is that, even if we started losing lots of games, clearly there'd be unrest amongst the club, and people probably would be calling for Harris to go if it was horrendously bad. But I think that they've just bought chips with the fans. I don't see people turning on them at all for a very, very long time, if ever. The reason we did with the previous ownership was his own actions, ultimately, and all I've ever seen from them is everything's done in a way that it seems genuinely sincere, and they're doing things that are right by the club, and they're spending a bit of money here and there as well, but their actions are proving to be the correct way, in my opinion. And I don't think we're ever going to get a scenario where I'll stand to be corrected here, but I don't think there's ever going to be a Gallinson out movement ever, personally.
And they've not ever promised anything either.
Exactly.
They've not come in and given us a pathway to the Premier League brochure. Gallinson even said before the start of the season in interviews, he said, like, obviously we want to be promoted, but it's not the end of the world if it doesn't happen. So he's not saying we're going to be promoted this season. We're going to go and spend loads of money to make it happen. They're humble people. They're keeping a lid on. I think they are trying to keep a lid on expectations the same way Harris is, and just rolling with it. And I think it's actually the right approach, because if you're better off, like I think we've sort of used the catchphrase on here a couple of times. You're better off to sort of over deliver, under promise, than over promise and under deliver. And unfortunately, that's the difference now compared to pre-Brad and Shannon.
And I think the reason we did that in the past as well, just to interject, Matt, is because not much else was going on. We had to, Scally had to be a snake oil salesman to a certain degree to get people to buy season tickets. I kind of get the game, but they didn't deliver much else. Let's be brutally honest. So the promises had to almost be there as the hook into people to want to have good feeling around the club, almost, really. Whereas they don't need to do that now. There's no need to promise anything. We're happy with what's happening right now.
That's it. We're engaged, and you made the point about results may turn, but I still think people would want to go and watch the football because the social aspect's been improved as well. We spoke about on previous episodes, the Raynham end, the back of the Raynham end now. You can go and get a beer in there. If you can't get in the factory, you can watch the football. There's food outlets that are open. It's not just the burger van outside. It's not just a crappy hot dog or a pie that's been cooked into the tin because it's been in there for a week. You can get pasta. You can get different types of food. People want to go. You can see your mates. You can go with your family. I take my daughter now. She's a season ticket holder. People want to go regardless of the result. Of course, we want us to win, but it's not the be all and end all. It is from 3 till 5 on a Saturday. I totally get that. But you'll still come back the Saturday after if you've been beat the previous week. Whereas last season, I think if we'd had a Colchester result, the Tuesday or the Saturday after, people would have gone, nah, I'll go and do something else. And listening, that's just from what you two have been saying on that section, I've written down listening, small steps in terms of we're not over-promising. We've not heard the ship's ready to sail for ages now, which is brilliant. And we want to go. We want to go and watch our football team. We want to go and give money to our football team because we feel valued and we feel like we're getting something back.
The only ship I want to hear about is HMS Pistol League, which hopefully is out to sea already.
It's the engine's on, I'd imagine. I think Colchester will probably do us a favour in the long run. Let's talk about Como. I didn't go, unfortunately. One of my dear colleagues at work was dog sitting and was unable to get out there. Reece, I believe you attended. Had a brilliant time.
Yeah.
Well, Jack, you didn't.
No, I didn't.
You had to lend your flag, didn't you, Colshire?
I had to lend me flag. Yeah, let's not get into that. I started a new job that week, mate. So any other time I'd have gone. I go to England away games regularly. I'm going to Scotland in a couple of weeks. So yeah, I would have gone, and I'm very much jealous. So I'd like us to skip over this part pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think we'll talk to Reece quickly because I couldn't go. Your reason was better than mine. Mine was because one of my colleagues, bless her, was dog sitting her daughter's puppy for 2 days, and it was the 2 days that Gills were meant to be training and playing, so I couldn't get the time off.
She owes
Anyway,
you.
so Reece, Como was great. Next subject. No, tell us about it, because obviously we've seen photos, videos, we've seen the march from the town into the game. We won the game, which was brilliant as well. That was a bonus. We've seen the videos afterwards of people telling Scott Malone to sign the contract, which he did. Again, people listen now. It's brilliant. Just give us a brief, very brief, please, for us to overview of what Como was like from a fan point of view. I've written trip of a
No,
life.
yes. Yeah, aside from the journey home, which there was plenty of Gills fans on that same flight, which was a bit of a disaster. It was a fantastic experience. Obviously, really good numbers went over. I reckon there's probably sort of 300 odd. Obviously, Como, lovely place. Helps that it's quite a small place as well. So if he was out walking out and about Como, he was never far from bumping into other Gills fans, which was nice. The game was utter dross for 89 minutes. I won't lie. But obviously it was a great moment when Dom scored that goal, because like you say, it's only pre-season, but walked away being able to say I've seen Gills win in Europe, which was good. But like I touched on earlier, the meet and greet after the game was a really nice touch from the club, and yeah, the march that the Gallinsons led was sort of one of them sort of goosebump moments that all the Gills fans were gathered at the same bar, and then they walked down the road, obviously posed for photos of everyone 10-15 minutes, and then just led this walk around the ground. I felt sorry for the locals, who probably wondered what the hell was going on. But no, it was brilliant. It was a really good trip, and obviously there was only that one sort of story of a little bit of unrest, but hopefully it was sort of quite a minor isolated issue, and hopefully it's not put the club off doing another thing next summer, because it was a superb experience, and I think even more will go if we do something else in Europe next year.
Yeah, I just hope that if they do it again, they can get, maybe get plans out a bit earlier to give everyone a bit more time to sort out. I know a few fans that were rushing to get passports renewed and new passports and that type of thing. But yeah, if they could get something announced, maybe turn of the year, to let us know, it'd be brilliant, I think. And you could maybe even double the attendance again, because yeah, it did look like a trip of a lifetime. You've mentioned there was a little bit of trouble, so I do want to talk about a subject that sadly keeps coming up at the moment, and this is the only real negative part of the show, but it's something that needs addressing. We keep, unfortunately, having to see these club safety announcements being put out on social media feeds by the club at the moment. We've seen two in the last couple of weeks. One was about Pyro Technics. They look great. I understand it flares. We saw one go off at Sutton when we took the lead. There was one went off at Crawley. It looks brilliant if you're filming it. I must admit, I think there's some in my match day footage as well. But they are illegal, I do believe, in the UK. They're not allowed into football grounds. I've seen comments, replies to such posts. Oh, you're taking the fun away. I'm going to sit here and talk as a parent, and I'm sure Jack may as well, as opposed to just being a football fan. Obviously, they are dangerous if they land anywhere near you when they're lit. We wouldn't want anything happening to any Gills fan to be hurt or harmed by one of these things. So I can understand that the clubs had to put the statement out. The second one is probably more frustrating, more worrying, more concerning. Reports of racist abuse towards a Colchester United player last weekend. Again, no disrespect, we've got some proper boneheaded fans. I don't get the thought process behind the replies. We're in the 21st century, for crying out loud. Like, I've seen people trying to put it on the player. We haven't got the facts, but there's a reason why we have to keep putting these statements out. And it's not the first time, unfortunately. And mud starts to stick, doesn't it, gents? This is not the first time with Colchester. We then had the incident a couple of years ago at home to Lincoln. Regardless of the outcome, it's putting a negative spotlight on the club at the very time we're trying to create and do something completely the opposite. And it needs stopping, essentially, if it comes to light that it is true that players are being abused for the colour of their skin.
Yeah, I find it staggering, really, that it's still going on, in as more so than it's ever done in the past, which I find odd. Maybe people were less willing to shop fellow fans back in the day, but I don't recall many incidents at all in the 90s or 2000s or even the 2010s, really, where this has ever happened. It seems to be the racism element seems to be sort of rearing its head a little bit more now, which I don't really get, but absolutely needs to be stamped out. I don't get it personally.
I don't no, I just can't get my head around the thought process. I really can't. It's unfathomable to me that we're in 2023, Reece, and people think it's right to be shouting this type of thing, or we don't exactly know what the chants are, but it's been reported by someone. But whether that's the player himself or that's a Gillingham fan reporting another Gillingham fan, it shouldn't be happening. And I've seen replies and posts on social media saying, "Oh, it's the younger generation." Doesn't matter how old they are, does it? Doesn't matter whether they're 18, 19, 20, whether they're 75, 95, or they're middle-aged, 40, 50, 60. It's wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's disappointing because obviously in pre-season the club put out a statement saying that we've been charged twice for offences during last season, sort of reminding everyone of the fact that you can't just endlessly pick up an infinite amount of charges. There will come a point where punishments come for that, and that could be points deduction. So why would you want to go to a game and risk undoing the work that Neil and the team are doing by behaving in this way? And the club put out a really good video just before the season started of the owners, of players, of Harris, of people behind the scenes addressing the issue. And like we've touched on, they've been really good, the football club, that they listen to us as fans. I think people should do the same and listen to what the club have actually got to say.
Them, yeah. Absolutely.
Because there is these examples that we've heard about, ones that have been reported, and even ones that don't end up coming to fruition. I don't think we were both at the Millwall game, but there was a section of people that had some ridiculous chanting to. Obviously, that game fell just as their owner had passed away, and there was some moronic stuff coming from the Rainer men that day as well. So people need to learn, and they need to learn fast, because sooner or later, like you say, mud does stick, and the FA will come down on it, because there'll come a point when they have to.
And it could end up being the difference between promotion or not. We're not sitting here to be dramatic. That could be the case. We could be 7 points clear at the top of the table, 10-point deduction. If it keeps happening, you've got to go in the playoffs, or worse, so you drop out of the playoffs entirely, and that'd be criminal. Excuse the phrase. If we end up having a good season.
They could make us close part of the ground for us for a few games. You don't like what they do in Champions League when teams get done for racism. You just don't know. The FA could do anything they wanted to if it was deemed severe enough.
Absolutely. And I don't know, you both are on my Facebook page. I saw a post from an individual last week or the week before, after the incident regarding, we think it was Ashley Naderson, that Crawley received some sort of threats. Death threats was the rumour. So that got posted onto the Facebook page. This has to stop, this emoji. So no innocent until proven guilty. You hang drawing and quartering the Crawley fan. Yeah, but because it's our fan, the same individual has posted the article regarding our racist fans and takes the innocent until proven guilty. You can't have it both ways either, can you? You can't, if it's an opposition fan towards our player, say, "Oh, that's disgusting," and then when we do the same thing, then go, "Oh no, it's the player lying." That's it's boneheaded again.
Yeah, I think there's a line between being having a laugh with players and and giving them a bit of light-hearted abuse, and doing that and the racism. So yes, I mean there shouldn't be double standards at all. It should be it should be universally neither should happen. I don't know if you want to talk about the pyro element, mate, and the pyrotechnics. I've got a mate I'm going with tomorrow who likes Serbian football, or likes football across Europe, shall we say, and the different types of fans out there. And I think there's a place for that sort of thing in Europe. Arguably, you could say there's never been a cultural thing here. I do think it looks good, and it's when you're if you want to be part of it and in that part of the grounds, then maybe it's not going to be made legal, is it? But if it was ever made legal to have pyrotechnics and stuff like that, I think it would add a lot to English football. But I don't think it ever will. And ultimately, it's probably a silly thing to be bringing them in and throwing them on the pitch. But when I'm in amongst it,
also raises the question of stewarding as well, doesn't it? Because if that's something that's illegal, how has it got into the ground twice? So it's not, and I'm not saying, and I've said it looks good. I get that. We all remember the pictures of Thomas Holy appearing like Batman out of the front of the Brian Moore stand a few years ago when Charlton fans lobbed him on the pitch and the goal got disallowed, I think. It looks incredible. I get that. But the bottom line is whether I like it, you like it, Reece likes it or not, it's illegal in this country. So again, it's going to fall back on the club. And if there's that going on with all the other stuff, people are going to be looking at us more than they should be.
Yeah, I agree, mate. Like, I wouldn't be against it maybe being made legal, I guess is my point, and I'm happy to be in amongst it when it's happening.
But
I
until
don't
then,
mind. But until then, yeah, unfortunately, I say unfortunately, depends on what way you look at it. It's just a silly thing to be doing, ultimately.
Reece, final thoughts on it before we get back to the more positive stuff.
Yeah, I don't have an awful opinion on Pyro Technics, to be honest. I don't hate them, but I also see, other than the visual effect, I don't really see how they aid atmosphere. I don't really see an awful lot of point in them. Maybe it's something that's better suited to bigger stadia. Maybe we're in these sort of these little cramped League Two grounds, maybe it is a little bit more dangerous to be throwing things like that around. I don't know. But like you say, whether people like it or not, it is illegal to bring one into a football stadium. Yeah. So until then, don't do it.
That's essentially it, isn't it? Whether we like it or not, unfortunately. Anyway, that is enough regarding negative stuff. Let's hope that it can be sorted out sooner rather than later, and we don't have to keep seeing these statements come out from the football club. Season so far, I suppose. It's a very small segment of what will be a marathon, not a sprint, to coin the phrase. But it's been very positive, I think, on the whole. If we go through the games that we played so far, there's 7 in total. We went to Stockport opening day. Draw was probably a fair result, but we took our chance when it came along and we won 1-0. We then put in our best performance for many a year, seeing off Southampton in the first round of the Carabao Cup. We backed it up with a 1-0 win over Accrington, which I think was probably one of the most comfortable 1-0 wins I've seen in quite some time. We then had back-to-back away trips. We went to Sutton, and I thought we're fairly comfortable. Again, winning 1-0. We then went to Crawley and were anything but got away with it and won 1-0 again. And then the blip, the bump in the road that Mr. Harris has talked about so often over the last few months. We lost 3-0 at home to Colchester last Saturday after a very, very poor half an hour, which ultimately cost us the game. And then we went to Luton in the week, lost 3-2, but by all accounts, put in a decent showing against a side that is now in the Premier League. So, Reece, I'll come to you first. How do you evaluate 12 points from 15, second on goal difference, and 5 wins from 7 in all competitions so far?
No, it's obviously a really promising start. And I think, when the fixtures come out, I think we all looked at it and thought, well, Stockport aside, it's quite a kind opening month on paper. So it's good that we've been able to back that up and get points on the board. Perhaps the results have been more consistent than the performances suggest. But you're going to get that in League Two sometimes. Sometimes you'll play well and lose a game. Sometimes you'll play crap like we did at Crawley and you'll pinch one. I think that's just the nature of the division. But no, 12 points from 5 games, what with joint top, second on goal difference. Can't complain at that start. It's a great platform for us to build on in the season, because we will get better as the season goes on. I still think you could ask 100 different people to name our best 11 in a set system, and I think you might get 60 or 70 different answers. So we still probably don't know our best formula yet. We've still got players to come back from injury. So, we're joint top. We will be better as the season goes on. I think we're in a really good position.
So I'm going to come and ask you the same question, because I know you've got a slightly different opinion to me on Reece. We've already discussed that throughout the episode in terms of style of play and how we win football matches. So I'm going to ask you, what did you make of the reaction to the Colchester defeat? Suddenly, Harris was under pressure again from certain areas of the fan base. I call them the usual suspects. But the thing is, if we'd gone to Stockport and lost 1-0 opening day of the season, and then we'd beaten Colchester 3-0, everyone would have gone, really good start. Sure, like 12 points from 15. But because we've lost a home game, where we've been generally very good since the turn of the year, what did you make of the fallout from that performance and the result?
I suppose, look, I said on Twitter that under Pulis we won 4 out of 4, then lost to Colchester at home and got promoted. So, albeit we didn't lose 3-0, I think we battered Colchester that day and lost 1-0. So, a slightly different scenario. So, I can understand the disappointment of losing the game. I can understand saying it was crap because everyone thought that.
Yep.
But I think suggesting he should go, or I think I saw some people like that, for instance, saying that. I think it's just crazy, really. You can't argue with facts. As much as I wanted Harris to go in December of last year, and still have doubts over his, doubts over him more so than you two lads. You can't argue with fact, and I think calling, people calling for him to. I saw some ludicrous stuff of people calling for him to go, or just way over the top opinions after 5 games. Stupidity, really, to be honest. He always says judge it after 12 games. Let's do that then. Let's take him on his word, judge him on 12 games and see where we are. But you can't overlook a 3-0 defeat at home. It's not good enough. And he knows it's not good enough, but it's not something we've really had under him too often, let's be honest. So I think to the point earlier that one of you two made, I think it was Reece, that from a home perspective, we probably do need to possibly get on the front foot a little bit more and be more creative than we were the other day. We'll judge him on that. But to overreact the way we did, or some people did after that, was a bit silly for me.
Reece, I'll come to you with a similar question.
No, I'll be well in agreement. I thought some of the stuff that come out was ridiculous. Obviously, you sit in the same block of me in the Rainimen now. A couple of probably individuals more than anything else. Some of the stuff that were coming out towards Harris was just absolutely brainless. Like Jack says, you cannot argue with fact. I don't want to go too much into Harris about the moment because I know you've got him as sort of the last topic. But yeah, you can't argue with the numbers, and sort of it's when people say, "Well, look, here we go, we've lost 3-0 at home. He's not the man to get us promoted." Well, we've been the best team in League Two by points for 9 months. It's not 9 games. It's not a blip. It's not a short period of time. A football season is generally played over 9 months, and in the last 9 months of football, we've been the best team in League Two. So whether you like his football or not, we can all argue about his style of play until the world ends. But the fact is, what he does is winning us a lot more games than we lose. And if we want to get out of the division, that's the way it has to be. So I think people just need to accept that he's not going to drastically change his style of football, because he says himself he's a manager that likes his teams to first and foremost be solid. He has a clean sheet mentality, first goal mentality, and then he goes from there. Maybe that does mean that sometimes when we do go 1-0 down, maybe he has got a couple of flaws in that regard, but he's managing Gillingham Football Club in League Two. He's not going to make every single decision on a Saturday afternoon right. And if he's a crap manager and he's got more points than any other League Two manager in 2023, now how crap must the rest of them be?
This is the thing, and if you look at the league table at the moment, you've got Bradford, you've got Wrexham, you've got Stockport. They're all 12th and below. These are all big heavyweights in this division, if you believe the pundits and the experts. We're currently set second. Saturday was just a blip. I'm confident of that. If we go to Grimsby on Saturday and get a point or get a win, and then go and take, 4 or 6 points from back-to-back home games, all's right with the world again, isn't it? I think it's a very solid start. If you take 12 points from every 5 games throughout the season, you're going to be in a decent position come May. That's the bottom line. And people that were, and Jack's been very open and admitted that up till December he was very much in the Harris out camp. But if you're going to slag Neil Harris off and what he did for 6 months from the back end of the relegation season to the takeover, then you've got to give him credit for 9 months now where he's been very, very good. We saw the tweet from the lower tiers that came out the other day, and I quoted it and added more. 4th best in the entire EFL since January the 1st in terms of points won. 4 points clear in terms of the best points return in League Two. 16 wins from 29 games in the same period of time, averaging 1.82 points per game since January the 1st, which gives you 84 points over a season. That's promotion form, bottom line. Failed to score in just 6 of those 29. I know there's lots of ones, and I get that, and I think Jack might be the one that makes the point and says, yeah, we need to score more. Of course, we'd love our teams to be scoring more and hammering teams, but it comes back to the point we made earlier. If we're sitting here in May and we've won 25 games 1-0, I don't think too many people are going to be moaning.
No, I said that on the last episode, mate. I said I don't care if we win every game 1-0, 46 games 1-0, which nearly was on until last week. But we could debate the point of style all day long. I think for me, it's just, I think I said it before. Look, if it comes to January or even December and we're under 12th, he's probably going to be in trouble. I don't think we're going to be. But the reasons why we will be, in my opinion, I think, based on some of the flaws that I feel he has, and that Reece has probably, suggested that he has as well. But you can't, like we said, you can't argue with fact, mate. There's things I wish he would change, but if he did, who's to say we wouldn't go on and start losing games? So if we could debate it till the cows come home, mate, but you can't argue with fact. Simple as that.
That's it, because we could say, right, let's go and be more attacking. So we go to Grimsby and he plays Jaden Clark one side, Connor Mahoney, and we play two up top, and you just leave Timmy and Sean, for instance, for argument's sake, in the middle, and we get overrun and we get bashed. People are going to moan tomorrow. But people are going to moan after getting what they want. They want him to be on the front foot. At the end of the day, we all want our football team to get out of this division. It's a horrible, horrible division to get out of. And it's at the best of times, and it's probably the strongest it's been for a decade as well, in terms of the financial clout that's in it as well, Reece.
Yeah. I think, unfortunately, the thing with Neil is that I think after the first half of last season, I wouldn't say a lot of people, a section of people made their minds up on him. And the nature of quite a lot of football fans is that they can be quite stubborn. And once they've made a decision on someone, that's it. Because, some about him not being able to, he's not got the materials or the caliber to get us up. Well, he's not managed that many full seasons in football, and he's already had 3 playoff campaigns. Mm-hmm. And in 2023, we got more points than the other League Two team. So that doesn't point to me to this narrative that he doesn't know how to get a team fighting up the top end of the division. The whole, whether people say it tongue in cheek or not, the whole Neil Harris, as in INL, well, we've scored in 16 of our last 17 games. So that myth doesn't really fit. And it just feels like, we won 6 games in a row, going back to obviously Salford last season. And there were people that will claim that they were being positive, but were generally keeping quite quiet. And all of a sudden, as soon as we lose one game, sort of there's endless amounts of tweets on people's timelines and Facebook feeds and stuff about how crap Harris is and how we're never going to achieve anything under him. And it's just reactionary nonsense. That's all I think it is. And I genuinely, I'll stick my neck on the block here, given the start we've had, with where I expect us to be this season. Obviously, Jack talks about if at Christmas we're 12th or whatever, we won't drop out the top 7 all season, is my prediction.
Bold shout there, Gills fans. Get that saved.
I think I said, mate, with Harris, if this was, you look at Pulis when he first started. I don't think we won every game 1-0 or lost a game 3-0 when he first started. I'm trying to think back to the start of that season. We beat Wigan 2-1. We beat Barnet 2-0. I think we beat Cambridge 3-0. And then we beat someone else, obviously. I can't remember who.
I think it was like
Lincoln.
Autumn or winter.
No,
Lincoln. Beat Lincoln comfortably. I watched the DVD actually last weekend. Yeah, I think
so.
I think the first time we conceded 2 was Wigan away, and that was like autumn winter when we lost 2-1 at Wigan. Yeah.
So if you look at it, Pulis' start was a bit different. Although he ended up scoring only 49 goals, it was a massive.
Also, weirdly, to interject, there was a big incident regarding racist abuse on that video, on that DVD as well, wasn't there? Hartlepool and Darlington, I think, were the 2 clubs in question. Yeah. So there's so many similarities to getting promoted.
I think for me, if you look at that though, if he'd have won every game 1-0 Pulis, then we wouldn't be moaning about it. But he didn't. But the season ended up being almost a 1-0 type team, and no one moaned about it. And the same with Allen. And in both cases, Pulis and Allen got us up in their first season, so there was never an opportunity to be negative about him. Mm-hmm. Whereas I guess Harris's reputation precedes him a little bit. He's been unlucky. He's had probably the worst budget of any Gillingham manager in the entirety of this football club, under what many of us didn't want as an owner anymore. So you have to look at it from that regard and think, well, he was working under extremely tough conditions. There is elements of me that thinks he could have done a lot better at the start of last season. I've always gone on record and said 7 goals in 24 games was never good enough. Mm-hmm. And I think another manager may have done better than that. But you can't argue with facts since. My only thing would be, and I said this in a group chat with you lads, and I've only pulled the facts up today accidentally, just seeing it on Facebook, is we need to be the sort of team that actually does win from a losing position. Luckily, we've not had many of them under him, which is another testament to him, I guess. But, I personally feel if we was to go a goal down in any game under Harris, we don't have that creative spark or attacking nous to overrun teams to be able to get it back, which you could argue is, isn't necessarily a complete negative because we are the sort of team that keeps going 1-0 up and seeing it out. But I think that's the only flaw I can see right now, which may lead to us dropping out of the top 7. But I don't think I'll go along with Reece. I don't think we'll. If we do drop out of the top 7, it won't be for very long, in my opinion. I think it has to be top 7 for him. The squad he's got, the players he's got, the squad depth he's got. I feel we have to be 7th at the very, very least.
And this is the thing we've said on previous episodes, isn't it? He's got no excuses now.
No,
because he came in. If we break it into 3 sections, his reign, January 22 to the end of that season, he was cleaning up Steve Evans' mess, and he nearly did it and performed a miracle. You then had the summer 22 to the takeover. Yeah, I think with hindsight, which is a wonderful thing, and it always wins. I think I agree with Jack. We probably should have been better than half a dozen goals in half a season, but we can't change it. But I think we're seeing the real Neil Harris now, and that's from January 1st to September 1st. We're averaging nigh on 2 points a game over the same period of time that a season essentially lasts. So there's more positives than negatives. And again, it comes back to the fact if we're sat here in May on episode 10 or 11 talking about a promotion season, people aren't going to care whether we've scored 45, 65 or 85 goals.
Be interesting to see what their fans are like that Reece said they kept quiet. Hopefully they'll, I think, with me, I can be quite hard nosed. I thought Adnan Addison was a poor signing or an average signing. I thought Harris should have gone back in December. I'm man enough to admit in both cases that I've been wrong. I think other fans could maybe take a leaf out of that book, perhaps. I'll put my neck on the line with opinions, but I'll retract them when I feel like I've got it wrong. And there's nothing for me at this very moment that suggests that Harris should. The talk of him even remotely being considered to be leaving right now is absolute nonsense.
There's been so many other opportunities for that to have been the case, and now is definitely not it.
I feel like it's a non-story, mate. I feel like it's a select few people, as Reece says, on Twitter and on Facebook that will say it. Don't want to kind of go back on what they've said on their own opinion, and it's a complete non-story, really. I think if you said we had 20,000 fans overall across the world, I'd say 500 of them at max would think that he should not even think he should leave, would think they wouldn't be against him leaving right now. There's probably about 10 of them that think he maybe should leave now. It's just a nonsense opinion. I don't feel like it should even be debated, to be honest.
No, I totally agree. I think we're nearly done. There was one subject I missed, so I just want to finish on that quickly because I appreciate people have got evenings to get through and people have got to get to bed early to get up for Grimsby away. But another positive was just more access for channels like this, the stuff that we do and the stuff that the ME7 do and German Gills, which is a very different setup because of copyright rules are different in Europe, which is a brilliant watch. I really enjoy it, and we've got Reece on the not Monday review, match day review shows now, which I think has been a brilliant addition. So I think credit to the club again, to Phil Catterick, to Brad, to Shannon, to everyone else was involved. Fish was involved at the time, I think back in March when I went in for a meeting in terms of allowing access to the football club now to find out, the face, the man behind the manager, so to speak, with Neil Harris. Myself and the ME7 were both lucky enough to interview Neil and both were brilliant fun. Both were brilliantly received on social media. Kenny Jackett, I could have listened to all night long. That was absolutely superb. We've even got our own media policy now, which was unheard of under Paul Scally. It was never going to happen. It was just, again, it was empty promises, listening and then making these empty promises and then not following it through. So firstly, thank you to the club for allowing that kind of access because it elevates the channel. Channel's growing as a whole. I did some rough maths. Episode 8 of this series was the first video after the end of last season. Since then, we've produced 30 videos that are now averaging 1,655 per hit, which is frankly astonishing. So thank you to every single person that watches and listens and retweets and shares and all that type of thing that I say at the end of every vlog. Myself and Reece and Jack would just be 3 blokes having a chat if no one watched, no one interacted, no one replied, no one disagreed with us. it's just another point that I wanted to make that's really, really refreshing. The fact that we can get access to people that are contracted to the football club now and find out about what's going on within reason. You know, we don't have to find out stuff that we don't need to know. But yeah, from me, I just wanted to say a big thank you, because the numbers have been frankly ridiculous since Brad and Shannon came on, and certainly since the positivity of winning football matches started happening, and that obviously helps. 1,300 people watched us lose 3-0 at home to Colchester last week, so that's the story of how things are improving, and you two both play a part in that. So thank you very much from my point of view.
No worries, mate. Thanks for having us on.
Well, I think obviously the one with Harris is a really good example. Obviously, yes, we hear from Neil Harris all the time, but a lot of that is him walking out the changing room 10 minutes after a game with a microphone shoved under his nose. Whereas what your ones did, it gave us a more informal insight into Neil. And like you touched on, it allowed us to see more about Neil Harris, the man, rather than the manager. I think that's invaluable, and that will help for some people over time to sort of to build more connections to him, or maybe to whoever else that you get on at times. People might have maybe sort of warmed to Harris a little bit after sort of hearing him in a more casual and informal setting about him and his career and things like that. So it can only be a good thing, and hopefully it carries on, because hats off to the club for it.
Absolutely, yeah, and even silly things like being able to use club photos now. So big thank you to Colin Nash, who does Kent Pro Images. He's allowed me to use his photos for stats-based tweets. That's something else that wasn't allowed up until this summer. So again, little things, big wins, that type of thing.
I'll make a nod to the Gills Supporters Club as well. I've joined.
Yeah, they're now officially joined as part of the football club, rather than being an independent supporters club. Absolutely,
which again is another sort of a nod to the Gallinsons as well, really. But consider joining that supporters club, because you've got good people.
Absolutely, I think, gentlemen, that is a good place to end what has been a very positive episode. Again, you have to get used to this, Gills fans. Jack, as always, appreciate your time. And you, Reece, been a real pleasure. Thank you both.
No worries, mate.
Right, Gills fans, I'm going to let these two gentlemen go off and enjoy their evening, because I need to go and have some dinner and get to bed really early, because myself and Ava will be on the bus en route to Grimsby very early tomorrow morning for a match day live. I missed Cheltenham. I missed Luton on Tuesday. I was away with the family, but cannot wait for the early alarm call tomorrow morning. I hope you've enjoyed this episode as much as we've enjoyed talking and bringing it to you. As again, thank you for all the ongoing support. Please keep doing it and continuing to do it, because it keeps the channel growing. Match day live Saturday afternoon. Match day review Sunday morning, hopefully. Looking back on Gills picking up another 3 points and getting the Colchester defeat out of the system. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, whatever you were doing. And until next time, up the Gills.